This WQED education podcast is made possible by the Ready to Learn Initiative, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and listeners like you. Thank you.
Welcome, parents and caregivers, to our World of Work Caregiver Companion episode. In this short episode, we will explore ways that we as adults can help to encourage career curiosity in children and support their blossoming interests through a panel discussion. This season, we are once again joined by Leanne Kruger, a kindergarten teacher working in the Pittsburgh Public School District, and Elaine Volpe, Youth Services Director at the Bethel Park Public Library. Welcome back, Leanne and Elaine.
I'm Elaine Volpe. I'm the head of youth services at the Bethel Park Public Library. I've been here at the library for over 20 years and running the department for a little over 10.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leanne Kruger. I'm a mom of two boys, ages 12 and 9 currently, and I am a kindergarten teacher at Beechwood Elementary, which is located in the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
Our listeners just learned about the exciting job of a geologist from our guest, Dale. Let's explore how we can support children showing interest in geology and other science-related careers.
When I was thinking about this question, I was just thinking about caregivers thinking outside the box of different experiences they can give their children. I know that geocaching and where you can go out and sort of explore and just find things. My youngest son, loved to collect rocks for the longest time. So just putting them in situations and taking them to new places where they can explore sort of the earth and the things around them and just see what they find and see what piques their interest.
You kind of just stole my answer verbatim, Leanne, right? As a mom, my kids are older now. My youngest was extremely curious about all things, but specifically nature and science. And I'm not a scientifically minded person at all. Science and math were never my forte. But I think just getting him outdoors, like you said, hiking in the park or just playing in the backyard and letting him be out there for as long as he wanted, even if he was getting dirty and digging up the whole entire yard and the garden, that's okay. Just give them those opportunities to be outside because we learn so much just from being in nature and just in our natural surroundings. And we pique a child's natural curiosity where we might not have all the answers. So often as a mom, I did not, right? But we would jot his questions down and we would explore them and we'd find the answers together. We'd come to the library and we'd find books about it and we'd read more about that topic. And just because I work at a library, I'm also going to say we have, maybe not for each individual topic, but we have so many databases too that kids can explore. So yeah, definitely just get them outside. Just let their natural curiosity formulate even more questions and just explore those questions together. And like you mentioned before, Jen, we learn as adults. We learn right along with them. So be open to that, learn and grow and explore together.
And I think that is so important. I think of my own son who's 7 and he asks me so many questions every day. And some of them I can answer. And he'll say, Mom, wow, you're so smart. And then he comes up with one that's a real stumper for me. And I'm like, I don't know, buddy, but we can learn together. And I think just that idea that I think we're setting a good example for our children when we say we can learn together because I'm a grown up and I can still learn more. That's important because I think that we'll instill that love for lifelong learning in them in that way. And just helping to keep that curiosity flowing, I think is important too. So using the library, we at least have one session every day where we're asking Alexa some of Mason's questions, so there's all kinds of modern solutions to these problems now too that, I think back to my parents and they just say, well, I don't know. And that's the way it is. But, that's not the way it is anymore. We have so many more things at our fingertips that can help us to answer these burning questions that kids have. And I think that the best way to support them in their curiosity is just to help them find answers.
I'm going to keep coming back to like what you said earlier, right? But we are their models. So the more they see us reading and asking questions and discovering, then the more they're going to do it too. And like you said, I love that term, lifelong learning. We want to be lifelong learners and we are never too old to learn something new. So I think that's important that we teach that to our kids or our kids recognize that.
And it can feel daunting, to parents maybe who aren't as close to a library to have those resources or who might have children saying, I really want to do this experiment. How can we provide these experiences to our kids in a way that isn't overwhelming to us as adults? I think that, there's other things like, my son really wanted to do the Mentos and the Diet Coke experiment, and I had neither on hand. So it was a promise of, we'll try this someday, but let's watch a video that shows us what happens and explains why it's happening, and then we can try it sometime. So there are things out there that you can do that make it less daunting as a caregiver to provide these experiences. There are ways around it. There are things to try and do that aren't so difficult, and they don't have to be. Kids are really interested in whatever we can show them that is something they haven't experienced before. And then that leads me as well to our educators. Sometimes educators have limited time and resources to devote to hands-on science experiments in class. How can educators foster curiosity and problem-solving skills that go hand in hand with scientific discovery under some of those limitations?
I think even if we don't have time to tailor a lesson around it or have classroom time to, actually do the activity during that class period or, the program that we're hosting at the library, we can still have materials available for them to explore on their own. At our library, we have a fairly large play area, and we swap out the toys and the learning materials monthly. But I always like to have something out there that is science related, STEM related, whether it be just building with the blocks or a different kind of building material, but let those kids explore on their own, even if we don't have time to physically teach it or do that hands-on experiment together. Just having those materials available for them to kind of play with on their own.
Yeah. And within the classroom setting, I think teachers are becoming really adept at just integrating sort of those STEAM concepts wherever possible. So if you don't have the ability to have a standalone science lesson, you find ways, for example, if I'm reading The Three Little Pigs with the kids, then we're getting the popsicle sticks out and we're trying to build a house out of wood, or we're getting straws and building a house out of straw. So just finding ways where you can problem solve and sort of use those scientific concepts within other lessons, with your reading lessons or with your math lessons. There are so many creative and different ways to be able to do that within the classroom.
Exactly. And I think this is tough for me because I think in general, kids are on their screens too much, right? But there is so much valuable content out there that if we monitor it or if we give them the websites to go to, well, this is a good opportunity. This is a good way to use technology, right? Log them into one of those databases where they can watch science experiments taking place or where they can learn more about a particular topic. And let's use technology in a good, purposeful way is another option. Because like you said, there's so much great content out there. It's just finding the right one and kind of just being aware and monitoring that. Because there's so much silliness out there too, right? But there is a good way to use technology, and this might be a good opportunity when you don't have that classroom time to get them on the computer and let them find something on the internet.
I can say too that the educational resources that teachers have introduced to my own child over the years that are technology based, like PBS Kids Play and Learn Science, those apps, Prodigy Math, just different things like that. My son will come home and want to play those in place of his normal Minecraft or whatever other game he's into at the time. So I think understanding that technology can be very purposeful and very educational. It doesn't always have to be kind of the more frivolous things that sometimes I think that kids can find themselves into, going down the YouTube rabbit hole and things like that. Knowing that it can be very purposeful and giving kids the tools to use technology appropriately and to use it as a means to learn, I think is really powerful as well, because that's something they can apply, to their own devices at home as well as at school. And I think that they do really latch on to those resources that we give them as educators, and they do want to play those educational games at home as well.
They do. Once they're aware of it, they are very much into them, right? So it's just making them and their parents aware.
Leanne, you had mentioned you were reading the Three Little Pigs and also building. Sounds like you're kind of blending curriculums there. You're kind of crossing those curricular boundaries. And Dale actually talked about that too as well. He talks about how in his career as a geologist, he blends science and history together many times to kind of learn more about the rock formations that he's studying. So how can we as grownups create learning experiences for our kids that cross those curricular lines on a regular basis?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too as I was talking about the integrating of sort of science and art and math and reading all together. But history was always really hard for me. Like it wasn't a topic that sort of always grabbed my attention and interest. So finding ways to be able to integrate that history when you're learning about science and blending them together, I feel like would be a great way to sort of sneak it in for kids. I mean, I'm sure there's other kids that find history very, very interesting, but it was always a tough one for me. So I think it's a great idea to find ways to sort of integrate the learning of history with other activities like science and learning about the different levels of rock in the earth, right? The metamorphic and all those other types. Just that is history as you're also learning about how rocks are formed.
I think too, just, pointing out how different things go hand in hand together is important because, I think of myself as a learner and I was never into mathematics or science, but, as I fell into books and reading, just finding out how many things kind of lended itself to other subjects was really helpful because it created like moments of, oh, maybe math isn't also bad because, I'm seeing it in other environments. So I think just trying to point those things out, I think it makes other subjects that might be not be preferred for kids more approachable and maybe just kind of pique their interest a little bit more.
Definitely. History was never my favorite subject either. Now I love history, whether it's historical fiction or just reading biographies. So yeah, I think it's important just to give them that exposure, right? And even if we don't want to drill it or force it upon them, but if we just even expose them, I think that's beneficial because years down the road, they may come back to it and kind of realize, oh yeah, this is actually very interesting. This really isn't so bad.
Thank you for listening to this panel discussion supporting another episode of our series, The World of Work. Thank you to Leanne and Elaine for joining us and for shedding light on new ways that we can prepare our children for bright futures. Until our next adventure in the world of work, I'm Jennifer Ford signing off. Bye-bye now.